All right, thanks, Sadie, for that update. So, guys, if you want to be part of one of Columbus's favorite events, you have one more opportunity. So, Miss Aanya Banga from MS is here talking about her research subject for Tales from the Crypt. Miss Aanya, thank you so much for joining me.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so Miss Aanya, talk to me about who is Elizabeth Lee Hazen.
So Elizabeth Lee Hazen is a girl or woman from Rich, Mississippi.
Okay.
And she continues to go on to the Mississippi University for Women. And in 1910, she graduates and earns her Bachelor of Arts degree. And then she goes on to New York in 1917 and goes to Columbia University and then invents the first antifungal antibiotic.
Wow.
Yes, it's really cool with her colleague Rachel Fuller Brown.
Okay.
And then she kind of like serves in the World War II with some of her scientific contributions.
Okay.
And
Amazing.
It's really cool.
Okay, so also there's a fun fact about Miss Elizabeth. She was inducted into a certain Hall of Fame, right?
She was in the International Inventors Hall of Fame.
Guys, from Mississippi in the International Inventors Hall of Fame. That's amazing. So Miss Aanya, I guess, talk to me about how did you start or where did you start your research?
So I started my research in the W's yearbook of 1910.
Yes.
And I found that in the Fant Memorial Library archives.
Okay.
And then I figured out that she wrote a book, and it was called The Fungus Spiders.
Okay.
And I just kind of read the book, and I found a lot of biographical information about her. It was really cool to just see, like, she was an orphan at the age of 3, and she just kind of grew up with her relatives and came to be this huge person that just like paved the way for all of us.
Now, do you feel like you kind of know her now after doing this research of her? Now, talk to me. You've been performing as her for a few opportunities that y'all have. Y'all have y'all's last one on Friday.
Yes.
What is the one thing you want your watchers, I guess, to learn from your portrayal of her?
I think I just want the watchers to just take away that us as women, like, we are able to accomplish a lot more than we are given. And just as historical connections from the past and the present and what we're doing in the future, it is very meaningful.
Yes.
And just like her contributions to the microbiology and her in STEM, I think it's really cool to see that someone that grew up in such hard times can just come out to be this huge accomplishment.
Yes, and make such a big impact. Well, Ms. Aanya, thank you guys. Stay with us. We have another student joining me when we come back. All right, everyone, welcome back into Mid-Morning. Miss Althea Wells is joining me in studio. She is another MS student who is taking part in Tales from the Crypt, and she is performing as Miss Sally Walker. So, Miss Althea, first of all, talk to me about Miss Sally and kind of some interesting stuff that you found out during your research.
Well, I started researching and I was uncovering this amazing story about this Sally Will Walker in France during World War I. Being a nurse, she actually built this amazing medical facility for French soldiers over there. And I was like, wow, oh my gosh. And then I hit this turn and I realized that I have been researching the wrong woman.
Wow.
So I uncovered another story of a Sally Will Walker here in Columbus, who is the daughter of Robert Walker, the founder of the Queen City Hotel.
Okay.
Which is obviously a very important piece of Mississippi history.
Yes.
So I ended up uncovering 2 stories for one, and it was
with
really
the
nice.
same name, which
with
is
the same
even
name.
Crazy. And you said what they're 2 years apart.
2 years apart.
So
both Lowndes
when
County.
did you notice that the person you were researching was not the Miss Sally that you thought she was?
Mr. Yarbrough, our director for Tales, our history teacher, came up to me and was like, Althea, something's not right here. And I was like, oh no.
But you've taken it as like a learning opportunity. You kind of got
definitely.
2 stories with one. So Miss Althea, first of all, let's talk about your performance. What is your favorite part about reenacting Miss Sally's life?
My favorite part is actually the very beginning.
Okay.
Because I start out and I'm not looking at the audience, I'm looking down. And that moment where I look up and I catch everyone's eyes, I can kind of see what kind of group this is about to be, what jokes I think they're gonna laugh at. And again, at the end, when I look away and I hear them giggling or chuckling or talking to their family members or the old women who come up and are like, you did good, honey, you did good. That's my favorite part.
We love that. All right, Miss Althea, also, Mr. Chuck told me that you guys have had like 683 people. I think that's pretty
sounds
exact
about right.
there. So, you know, obviously we want this next performance to be even bigger than last. What was the best thing that you've taken away from this whole project you've been able to do?
Probably going out and finding something I find important, good information, and then conveying it to people in a form that they would want to listen to.
That is so interesting because, you know, research is one thing, but like you said, conveying it to make it interesting, I feel like that is so difficult to do.
It is.
So I guess what also during your research, where did you, I guess, start with the whole research, Miss Allie?
I started out with, of course, the name Sally Will Walker and the grave sites of her and her father in Union Cemetery. And from there, I was able to find out, Union Cemetery, they're African American. So then I went to mercantile directories, newspapers, just all sorts of big stacks of information to comb through.
Oh my goodness. Like you literally are putting a puzzle together, piecing the parts. And then now you have a live story. But guys, if you want to see Miss Althea, she'll be performing on Friday. You don't want to miss it. Look, there she is. But stay with us. We've got one last student joining us to tell about her and her husband. All right, guys, welcome back. So we are continuing our deep dive into the research subjects for Tales from the Crypt, and Miss Jane Kasselman is joining me in studio to talk about Miss Olive Klein. So Miss, talk to us, who is Miss Olive and also your husband over here?
Well, Olive Boswell Klein was the wife of an older sheriff of Columbus. I personally do not know that much about her biographical information because I didn't know I was going to be portraying her until like near the very end of the experience. She was not my research subject, but she was my research partner's research, the wife of his research subject. And it didn't come until we were writing the script to perform that I knew I was going to be portraying his wife.
Okay, so talk to me about, you know, with you being the wife, we have a little perception in our portrayal. So talk to me about that, Miss Jane.
We kind of play the part of like an old bickering couple. And we argue about Pleasant Bowler, which is the man who shot Sheriff Klein. Missed several times. And I am kind of all about all the good work he did as a preacher and how much traveling he did and about like the more biographical information of his life, while Trice, my partner, is talking about how Pleasant Bowler shot the sheriff and all the crimes he committed throughout his life. And so the audience gets to see both of us talk about like both sides of his life.
Now, with you performing with your husband, we'll say, with Trice, is it a little more difficult to perform with someone else and kind of read the energy?
I'd say I think it's actually a lot easier. Because if you forget anything, you can just bounce off one another. The other person can cover for you, or even in the down times, it's a lot easier because you have someone to sit there and talk with. And I don't think I could get up there and perform on my own if it was just me talking to an audience.
I think you would do great. So, Miss Jane, let's talk about it. With these performances, y'all were doing the, y'all are performing every few minutes, correct? As many people come into the cemetery. So how is that like getting into character so quick, taking a short break and then having to get back in character again?
It's tough a little bit because me and Trice, we do start just talking a little bit about like, oh, do you see the next group? Are they done yet? Because we look at the performers before us to try to tell what part in their script they're at to see how close we are to getting our next group. So we go from Jane and Trice to Samuel and Olive really quick. But we don't have a lot of downtime, but I kind of like not having a lot of downtime because it gives me less to stress about. And suddenly, you know, the next group's there and you're starting your script again.
Now, what's been your favorite part about performing?
I'd say my favorite part, too. I like getting to sass Trice
Okay.
for 3.5 minutes straight.
We love that. We love it.
And I also like at the end of the performance, hearing the audience walk away and they're laughing, they're talking about what they like. I've heard some of them say, some things never change.
All right, Miss Jane, well, thank you so much. Guys, you can catch them on Friday. This is going to be their last performance, and you don't want to miss it. We'll be right back with your entertainment news.